Hey everyone, this is Rachel over at Moonlight Library, back again. This is my September wrap-up. I was about to say October. No, we are in October. And I read seven books, but I'm going to talk about 8 because I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the book that I finished like October 1st. It's not very spooky, so I'm like, let's put it in my September wrap-up. You know, just throw it in there. Anyways, we're going to go from most to least spooky since we're in October right now. I'll start with the spooky ones for all you Halloween lovers like myself, even though I'm not wearing like Halloween garb. But whatever. Maybe later. I have plans. Okay. So the obvious front runner for most spookiest book. What's wrong with me? The obvious front runner for most spookiest book is going to be Misery by Stephen King. It's my first Stephen King this year. I think so. I want to go with yes for that. I'm very excited that I finally read Misery. I've read a good amount of Stephen King, probably like over 10 books or so, but I don't think I've read many of his like big ones. Like, no, I read Carrie, I guess, and It, but I haven't read like Pet Sematary. I hadn't read Misery. I have not finished The Shining. I started that a long time ago. Never read The Stand. This coffee's a little weird looking. Just don't look at it. I never read The Stand. There's a good amount that I haven't read and a good amount that it's like, why have you read that one? You know, like, why'd you pick that one up? Whatever. Let's let it alone. Misery. I gave it 5 stars because it was wonderful. It made me want to, you know, I was like so disgusted by it. It is about Kathy Bates, aka whatever her name is in here. Annie Wilkes. What a dirty bird. She calls everyone dirty birds, aka there's not many people you hear her talk to. Anyways, spoilers. A good amount of people know what the plot of this is. She loves this author, Paul Sheldon. He happens to get into an accident near her house in the middle of nowhere, and she kidnaps him and she wants him to write a book for her. How nice. As a book lover, I do understand the sentiment, but I wouldn't do this. I think I should look at it from that perspective. Would I follow in this book lover's footsteps? No. No. It's gonna be a hard no for me. Hard pass. Oh, please don't. Yeah. If you love books, keep the authors alive. No spoilers there. Oh my god. Okay, so, but really, the thing we do need to talk about though is the fact that this book has the best Stephen King author photo in existence. And I'll show that to you. Look at that. Look at him. Okay. We're good. 5 stars. Give it a read. This is a good one. Next up is going to be a little bit of a mystery, and it's the end of a mystery trilogy. I mean, there's another one that just came out, but it's like not actually in this. Like, this is more of a trilogy. Anywho, it's the 3rd one in the Truly Devious trilogy, which is The Hand on the Wall. I keep wanting to call it like, I don't know, I make up names every time I'm trying to say it. I'm like, The Hand on the Wall of the Clock of the Wall. I talked about the second one last time, and I gave this one a 4. The overall series is about a 4. It's not like the best thing I've ever read, obviously, but it is very good, and I very much so enjoyed it. I love the way things were wrapped up in the end, and like how you have, I don't know, there's so many different stories going on at once in different timelines that are having to get like woven together and concluded. But there is this point in the 3rd one where they like tack on an extra storyline where you're like, Not sure why you had to include this, probably because you wrapped something else up and now you're like, we need more, but we didn't need that more. I don't think we needed that more, if you understand what I mean. It's very hard to talk about a book, like the third book in a trilogy, when you just have to keep redescribing what it is. It's like a mystery series. Teenage Stevie Bell goes to a boarding school and she's solving an age-old murder from like the 50s? I think it's 50s. Maybe I changed it every time I talk about it. It probably says in here, but who knows? But then people die in the current time, like in Stevie's timeline. So that makes it sound like it's alternate realities. It's not what I mean. It's not what I mean. Okay, we're just gonna move on. This was good. If you want a mystery series that's like overall interesting, takes place in like Vermont, do it. So now we're gonna kind of pigeonhole my 2 graphic novels in. Well, one's a graphic novel, one's a manga. One's like a one-shot graphic novel. It's Locke and Key Small Worlds, and that was in the Locke and Key universe. What? So this is Joe Hill, Stephen King's son. If you haven't read the main series of that like graphic novel series, then you probably should. It is so good. If you like graphic novels, if you like horror, if you like weird, if you like small town, obviously Maine, Stephen King's son, everyone was Maine in the family. I mean, I don't know about his other son. He must write about Maine. I know that he writes like the Sleeping Beauty series with Stephen King, the other son, not Joe Hill. But Joe Hill is a major recommend in general. I love this man. He's so interesting. He's funny. I love how his stuff kind of ties into Stephen King's universe, like a little bit of Dark Tower here and there. This one shot was pretty good. Most of the one shots in the Locke and Key are like pretty good. I gave it a 3 because I'm not gonna remember it forever. His other one, like one of his other ones, I picked that one up too, and I was like, maybe I'll read this. And I looked at my Goodreads and it was like, you've read it. You just forgot it. Because it's just like, okay. Whereas the actual series, phenomenal. Phenomenal. It's like this family goes to move after this tragic murder happens to their father. The wife and the kids end up moving to Maine to live with the father's brother in their childhood home. And there's a lot of like weird stuff going on with keys, Locke and Key, and there's a show on Netflix. Very good. Not as horrifying as the graphic novel series though. On we go. So the next one is a manga, and that is going to be Goodnight, Punpun by Inio Asano. And I was like, am I holding this correctly? I am. I just like had a moment where I was like, oh god, what? So this one is this weird story of, I know there are like 7 volumes or something in it, which is crazy to me. I don't know why. Most mangas have a lot. But you're following Punpun, and he's like this strange little chicken ghost. I don't know what he's supposed to be. But he and his family are the only like weird looking ones in this, and I think that's because of all the trauma that happens to him, that it's hard to represent him as an actual child. I haven't looked up other people's theories or what they're saying or what the author says, but this is what I believe, so therefore it is correct to me. Not sure where I said it like that. So like weird things happen. It's a little creepy at times. They go to this like abandoned like factory at one point. All this scary stuff is happening, so that's why it's kind of like high up there on my Halloween list, because there's that weird scene in the factory. Also, just like a good amount of talk about like emotional abuse, physical abuse, stuff like that, that I'm assuming that portraying him as like a non-actual boy, kind of like, because he has to pull himself out of it, you pull him out of it as well, out of like being inside of that like body. What? Sure. Okay. Overall, great book. Just gonna throw in there as well, when he prays to God and he says, hey God, Hinkle tinkle, what does he say? Yeah, dear God, tinkle hoy. And then God shows up. It's so funny. I don't know. That always made me laugh. Dear God, tinkle hoy. Because his uncle taught him that. What? Okay. Woo, I'm creating a pile down here and it's a little scary. Okay, next one we're going to talk about is Krak by Edwidge Danticat. And this one takes place primarily in Haiti, kind of in the US. It's kind of like a composite novel, maybe, like a short story collection, but it like moves along a track where some of them are intertwining, and it's primarily following women, and it's dealing with things like abuse and pain and sometimes happiness, mostly not happiness. It has a lot of like different style of stories where you don't feel like any one is a repeat of another, where sometimes I feel like you pick up a short story collection. Like I read Things We Lost in the Fire recently over the summer, and it just felt like she was regurgitating the same story over and over again. I think it's a good comparison to this one because, where is it? Can we hold it? Of course not. I think it's a good comparison to this one though, because of the fact that when you look at the fact that they're talking about these like abusive situations and like emotional things and kind of like tying, Things We Lost in the Fire was tying more horror into it than this one was. Things We Lost in the Fire was more like exploitational than this one was. This felt like you were really like getting a true and good representation of things without just regurgitating the same stories in a kind of overly exploitational way. Yeah. Anyways, that's why it's a classic. You know, would recommend. It was good overall. What did I give it? I gave it a 4. I read it for my book club. Okay, so next up, I read 2 nonfiction books. The first one is This Is Your Mind on Plants by Michael Pollan. It was my first Michael Pollan I've ever read, and this one is like 3 sections. One is focused on opium, one's caffeine, and one's mescaline, and kind of his experiences with these substances or these like drugs, plants, whatever. And it is so interesting. He is such a good author. He does such a wonderful job at bringing himself into nonfiction in a way that feels fluid and interesting. I love him. I want to read more of his stuff. I know that he has a lot of big books and I just never picked him up because I didn't think I'd like it. He's like a journalist that talks about gardening. I don't know. And trust me, he does some gardening in this one and it is good. Oh my God, he's growing poppies and you're like... Interesting. The next nonfiction I read was Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. This one it kind of walks you through Homo sapiens or sapiens in general from the beginning to now. And it's not just like physiology and evolution, but instead it is also about like our minds and our culture, society, everything. It talks about all the different things, all the scope, and it is very interesting. A lot of information happens really fast, but the way he presents it is very easy to digest and just like Game of Thrones, Humankind. It's quite interesting though. It's like a little bit of history, a little bit of science, a little bit of philosophy. It's got every single little bit that you need to know what it is to be a human, what it is to be like a sapien in general. Last but not least, the least horrific, least I think this would be the least horrific. And it's the one I just finished on the 1st. That is Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You? I am so glad I finally got to read this book. I really enjoyed it. I loved Normal People. Beautiful. This one follows 4, I'm thinking they're like 20-somethings. So you have Alice and Felix, and then you have Eileen and Simon, and their relationships with each other and relationships in general, and like them moving along the path of life, but mainly having to do with like each other. It's not really about their lives in general, but more about their lives in connection with each other and conjoined. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really interesting and good. It felt like Normal People. If you like Normal People, then this would probably be a great book for you. It's a lot of conversations between each other and just kind of stuff like that. So if you're not a big like dialogue and just like introversion, and if you like quotation marks, you won't like this book. I thought it was wonderful though. I would say that this is definitely something that I would recommend people to pick up, especially if they like Normal People. So yes, I think that's everything I read. I'm out of breath. That was a lot to go over. I read a good amount of books. So I'm very much so hoping that you enjoyed it and that you will go pick one of these books up and then tell me about what you read and whether you liked it. Because I surely did. Okay. Bye.